All right, this is one of our American Sentinels, and over here we have one of our American Pit Bull Terriers. And the purpose of this video is to discuss a little bit about the history of game dogs and band dogs. The American Sentinel is a program that I started 20 years ago. So this is a recreation basically of an old band dog, all right? Now, of course, the American Pit Bull Terrier, this breed, if you want to call it a breed, of course, and I'll come back why I say that in a bit. It dates back to the late 1800s and early 1900s. That's when the American quote-unquote pit bull began, although game dogs have certainly been around for much, much longer. Now, I selected this particular dog because he's a little bit on the bulldog side. I have some other dogs, even some that are bigger than him, that display more terrier features. And excuse his weight right now, he's a little chunky because it's in the morning, and of course he ate last night, and he tends to empty out around noon, so he'll be a little lighter in a few hours. A little bit about the origins of these dogs as it pertains to band dog duties. So first of all, let's define what a game dog is, and let's also define what a band dog is. And since I'm a breeder of band dogs, the American Sentinel, there's a lot of misinformation. Some people like to define words based on the understanding of society, and when you do that, language changes a lot. I, as a scientist, tend to prefer to define words based off of their root words and their meanings and assimilate them together. This is what scientists do. This is for herbivore. Vor means to eat, like voracious appetite, right? So, and then herb means plant-based. Omnivore, omni means many things. So omnivore means many things. This is just the way science terminology works. And it's the basis of our language. And when some people don't understand language, they change terms based off of their misunderstanding of terms, and then those terms become society based concepts that are oftentimes inaccurate, and they won't be called out for being inaccurate until somebody that's versed on the subject comes along. Now, with that said, I am, of course, a student. I don't wish to claim that I know everything, okay? I'm willing to learn from anybody that can do or explain things that I cannot do or explain. We should all be students until we are in the grave. But there are some things that are facts that cannot be disputed. If I drop this stick, we know gravity's going to pull it down. This is just the way gravity works. I can do it 100 times. It's always going to be the same way. All right? And this is also the way language should be developed. It should not be based on a misinformation. It should not be based off of not knowing what you're talking about and misunderstanding things. And it should also not be based off of delusions and intentional deceit, which has unfortunately been a huge aspect of the American Pit Bull Terrier's history. See, these dogs, while they may not normally be man aggressive, there are individuals in this breed that have displayed man-biting tendencies. Now, the problem with saying something like this is you'll have people that come along with breed-specific legislation that want to say, you said some of them display man-biting, quote-unquote, tendencies, and then these breed-specific legislation type people will want to lump all pit bulls into one category based off of prejudice, bias, hate, and ignorance. Now, unfortunately, the converse is also true. People that love game dogs will hear someone say there are man biters, and then they'll think you're accusing all pit bulls of being man biters. All right, and then some people will hear the word man biters and think that you're talking about unstable, defensive, insecure, rank-driven dogs that are cur-based and not confident. All right, this is a lot of misinformation. When I say man biters, man is reference to human. Biter is an individual that bites. So a man biter is an individual that bites a human. That's what a man biter is. Now, some man biters are defensive. I don't like those type of dogs. Why? Because if you go back to the old bandogs were dogs that were banded. That's what ban means. It doesn't mean to make illegal, it means restrained. And that's what a ban is. It restrains something, like a band-aid holds a wound together. A bandog is a dog that is held by a tether. And here we have a tether that goes to a post. Now the tether could be a leash, it could be a chain, it could be a kennel, anything that holds the dog back to prevent it from engaging its quarry. And quarry means it's prey, all right? A lot of people don't know quarry means prey. They think of a ditch. Well, it means that also, like a valley or a canyon, but it also means prey, Q-U-A-R-R-Y. A band dog is a dog that is banded or restrained by a leash or a tether until it's time to be released to catch its quarry. Now, band dogs have been used for bear baiting dogs. They've been used for hog dogs. They've been used for cattle dogs, butcher dogs. They've been used for protection work. And then you have the American Pit Bull Terrier, which was obviously held back by their handler until it was time for them to obtain their quarry, which may have been many different types of things, including hogs, dogs, other dogs, cattle, bear. When I say cattle, I'm talking about bulls, the bull baiting dogs. Now, for some strange reason, a lot of people that have pit bulls seem to acknowledge that they go back to the bull baiting dogs and the boar dogs and things like that, and the game dogs that were used for catching wild game that was dangerous. They admit that. But for some crazy reason, there seems to be this fad among pit bull people to deny that these dogs were oftentimes used to catch man. It's just a fact that that's simply part of their history. That doesn't mean they were bred to be mean and unstable and insecure, because those dogs would be totally unreliable in combat. It does, however, mean that they have the ability to be taught an array of different types of quarry. Now watch this individual fire up. He's chewing on a stick, and this is not protection work. This is just to show that the instincts are there, that I can adapt this dog into many situations. There he goes. See, I'm his friend. So because I'm his friend and his owner, now this is not real man aggression, because if it was, I wouldn't be able to come in here and say, hey, big boy. Again, I'm his owner, so he's not really wanting to get me. I'm just showing that he has an instinct where his abilities are there, and I can take him in to become what I want. Now, for our program, I like gladiator types of dogs. I don't really run herders. Herders are very intelligent. Herders have been bred to herd. If you want to talk about a highly intelligent breed, look at a herder work. Wow. They go out, they follow commands, turn right, turn left, come back in, push cattle into an area where the cattlemen may have been hundreds of yards away. And the dogs learn the commands to drive the cattle where they need to be based off of hand signals and verbal commands. And that requires an extremely trainable dog. Very highly intelligent. But the herders have been more like ankle biter bandogs when it comes to catching quarry, until, you know, they were used for police and military, and that's basically like 100 years or so. So, you know, maybe the breeds, I'm not going to get into that. I don't really dislike the herders as much, not because there's anything wrong with them, but if I want a protection dog, I want a gladiator. I mean, how much do I have to really teach this dog to be a gladiator? It's in its genetics. I'm teaching the dog to sit down, heel, stay, calm, out. That's it. I don't really have to do anything more than that. If I wanted to teach it tricks, I can do that. But I don't really need the competitive type of extreme trainability, as long as the dog will sit down, heel, stay, and calm, and do so accurately. I apologize for the video work. I look away and I don't realize how bad I'm handling this camera. But Anyway, so let's go back to another topic. What came first? Bandog, American Sentinel, American Pit Bull Terrier, or Game Dog? The American Sentinel is a fairly new breed. Like I said, I've only been working on it for 20 years. The American Pit Bull Terrier is about a 150-year-old breed. Now, some people say, well, its ancestors, they've been around forever. They've been around for 500 years, 1,000 years, maybe multiple thousands of years, millennia, I saw someone say. Okay, actually, you're not referring to the American Pit Bull Terrier. You're referring to their ancestors. Now, Richard Stratton says he doesn't even believe that terriers in these dogs. And, you know, Richard Stratton, I have a lot of respect for him, but he's like a historian. And if you go back to the breeders of these game dogs, they tell you bull and terrier right in the name of the early publications, bull and terrier. These guys just flat out, they didn't put in the word terrier for deceptions, although some people think they were. However, let's just assume there is no terrier. What does that mean? That means these are the former hog dogs, bulldogs, butcher dogs, etc. And if that's true, well, it may not be too surprising. You would expect the dogs to, on average, be of decent size. Yet most pit bulls today are going to be less than 50 pounds. This dog here is 58. Okay, well, 56 to 58. That's his chain weight. All right, his competitive weight is going to be around 50 pounds, 49, 50 pounds. So, but if you look at history and you go back to the earlier pit bulls, it was way more common to find dogs this size and perhaps even bigger. Now, these dogs over like 60 pounds are about 1 in 100. I mean, you can find 100 pit bulls less than 55 pounds for every one that you can find over 55 pounds. And if you go back to the early 1900s and mid 1900s, you will see that there was a number of dogs in that size range, which means maybe these dogs do have a larger origin, but I still believe terrier was in there. However, again, I don't want to get into the terrier topic. That's another topic. The point here is, why? Why were they so big in the past and not so big anymore? Well, it was because of their jobs in the past. Catching boar, catching cattle, catching bear baiting type individuals had to be of decent size. Now, they certainly weren't as big as this joker. This joker weighs 110 pounds, okay? But we certainly would have seen in the early 1900s many of these dogs that were the size of in excess of 55 pounds, some of them 65 pounds, some of them 75 pounds, and perhaps some even bigger than that. Well, this is because the butcher dogs and the hog dogs, which were band dogs, they were dogs that were held by a leash or a chain or a tether or a fence or something that kept them back before they were allowed to catch their quarry, man or beast. The oldest job on the planet for a canine was securing food and shelter. To do that, you had to go get it, and then you had to protect it. And that's why dogs were domesticated. Now, when that happened, it's very natural for the masculine man to be a little bit of a challenger and a braggart to some degree and feel like he's got the best. And next thing you know, it leads to competitions. After, you know, in the Roman days, they had the Colosseum. And in England, they had the bull baiting and the bear baiting and the hog catch type baiting situations. And then you had the hog hunters. And then you had man dogs, the dogs that would apprehend man. And if you think for 1 minute that they didn't use the bulldogs, the hog dogs, and the butcher dogs to catch men, you're kidding yourself. That doesn't mean they're unstable. Unstable dogs should be killed, in my opinion, cold, because they cannot be trusted with their handlers. Unstable, you only know one thing that's consistent about an unstable dog. They're consistently inconsistent. So we don't want those type of dogs. You want dogs that are stable. But as long as they have the instincts, there's nothing wrong with being either one of these dogs being used for protection work, as long as the owner is responsible. I would be willing to bet money that the vast majority of people that are bitten by dogs are not bitten by trained protection dogs. They're not bitten by people that train their dogs at all, because those people tend to be responsible. People are bitten by dogs because they don't understand dogs. They deny what's in front of them. They make excuses for the behaviors that they see, instead of just accepting the history and fact and observing what is real. And that is one of the best ways to get in trouble. If you want to protect these dogs and their future, then you need to accept the reality of what they are, where they come from, and how you need to care for them. This is just the way it's going to be. Now, my son is interested in picking up our business when I retire from the canine industry. I'm going to retire from teaching in 2 years, and this is what I'm planning. I'm 50 years old, and I plan on doing it for another 20 years. And at one time, I mentioned to somebody that I had some concerns about the long-term business aspects of working dogs, because I feel like overpopulation is going to happen. I'm a conservative individual, but numbers are numbers. I don't believe in population control. I believe let nature take its course and natural selection will happen. But as a person who believes that we are consuming a lot of resources, I feel like it's going to be difficult for people to have pets when they have a hard time feeding their animal. Or it's going to be difficult for people to have pets when they can barely feed their own family. And I mentioned this to a certain individual that's been in the canine industry for a long time. I mentioned that my concerns about people having dogs in the future may be somewhat limited. And he said, you might be right, except he brought up an excellent point, and I agree with him. And that was, in the beginning, food was hard to acquire, and people had dogs to get it, and people had dogs to protect it. And that was when food was a limiting factor. And as we overpopulate, food and shelter will again become a limiting factor. So while pets may decline, the working dog will increase. Technology is awesome. Having alarms, securities, cameras, things like this, firearms, electric fences, things like this are all added layers of security. But FBI statistics still show that the protection working dog is not only just the best deterrent, but also one of the best protectors that an individual can have. Because your firearm can't really do anything when you don't have it with you, and your alarm calls the police after the fact who show up late. But the dog is right there and can come to you when you need it. Whether you're asleep or on the toilet or in the shower or whatever, the dog is able to do its job. Even if you're not home, the dog is able to do its job to protect your property. So in that regard, these dogs do have a future. So that was pretty cool this is one of those things that that we should be able to discuss the truth and all benefit and all learn. But there's so many people out there with biased political agendas that they really don't want to accept the truth. They want to say certain things that work towards their agenda. And, be a pursuer of truth. Anyway, Lee Robinson from American Sentinel K9, y'all have a blessed day.